A quiet community in Washington state has been shattered by an unthinkable crime, and a desperate nationwide manhunt is now underway. Travis Drecker, a 52-year-old father and Army veteran, stands accused of murdering his 3 young daughters and vanishing into the wilderness. The case has gripped the country with equal parts horror and suspense. How could a routine custody visit end in such tragedy? What evidence was left behind, and how has this family man become the target of America's latest high-profile manhunt? Welcome to Bad Things. In this episode, we'll walk through the timeline of events, examine the chilling evidence, explore possible motives, and detail the massive law enforcement effort to bring Travis Drecker to justice. Timeline of events. May 30th, 2025, Friday. Travis Drecker picks up his daughters, 9-year-old Peyton, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 5-year-old Olivia, from their mother's home in Wenatchee, Washington, around 5 p.m. for a scheduled visitation. They are expected back by 8 p.m., but never return. By 9:45 p.m., the girls' mother, Whitney Drecker, contacts police, alarmed that Travis has not brought them home, highly out of character for him. May 31st, 2025, Saturday. Initial attempts to issue an Amber Alert fail as the situation doesn't meet strict criteria. Authorities had no evidence at first of a stranger abduction or immediate danger. However, new information leads the Washington State Patrol to activate an endangered missing person alert for the 3 sisters and their father later that day. Investigators begin tracking Drecker's movements. Surveillance cameras reveal his white 2017 GMC Sierra pickup truck traveling west from Wenatchee on Highway 2 on Friday, toward the rugged Cascade Mountains. June 2nd, 2025, Monday. The search intensifies in the mountainous forests of Chelan County. Acting on leads, officers focus on a remote area between Icicle Road and Chumstick Road, near the Rock Island Campground, about 10 to 12 miles west of Leavenworth. At approximately 3:45 p.m., a Chelan County deputy discovers Drecker's pickup truck abandoned near that campground. Tragically, a few hours later, searchers find the bodies of Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia about 75 to 100 yards from the truck, down a small embankment in the woods. The girls are found lifeless near a remote campsite in the Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest. Their father is nowhere to be found. With this grim discovery, a custodial interference case turns into a triple homicide investigation, and authorities swiftly obtain warrants for Travis Drecker's arrest. What began as a frantic local search for missing children has now escalated into a nationwide hunt for a fugitive murder suspect. Chilling evidence unearthed. In the aftermath, investigators piece together a harrowing crime scene. According to court documents, each of the 3 girls was found with plastic bags over their heads and their wrists bound with zip ties, a grim detail that underscored the brutality of the killings. An autopsy later confirmed that all 3 sisters died by suffocation, and their deaths were ruled homicides. Evidence collected from Drecker's abandoned truck and the surrounding area provided further clues. Forensic teams recovered 2 bloody handprints on the tailgate of the white pickup. Blood samples at the scene included 1 human male sample, believed to be the suspect's, and another sample that was non-human. In fact, investigators found the family dog alive at the campsite, frightened but unharmed, and turned it over to a local humane society for care. The presence of non-human blood suggests the dog may have been injured or involved in the chaotic events, though thankfully it survived. Authorities also retrieved a number of the suspect's personal items from the truck, as well as DNA and fingerprint evidence, which are still undergoing analysis. These items, ranging from camping gear to possible survival supplies, have raised further questions and leads for investigators. The condition of the scene painted a terrifying picture. The girls' wrists were zip-tied and their faces covered, indicating a calculated effort to restrain and silence them. This was no accident or spur-of-the-moment lapse. It appeared to be a planned and horrific act. The evidence of suffocation and binding is chilling, in the words of one investigator, and it left even veteran officers shaken. Each new discovery, the blood on the truck, the discarded zip ties, the plastic bags, added to the narrative of a father's betrayal of his own children, and it steeled law enforcement's resolve to track down Travis Drecker at all costs. A father's troubled background. To those who knew him, Travis Caleb Drecker was a complicated figure. A former U.S. Army soldier, he served from 2011 to 2013, including a short deployment to Afghanistan, before later joining the Washington National Guard. By 2025, however, his life had unraveled. Drecker had stopped attending required National Guard drills over a year prior and was in the process of being disciplinarily discharged from military service. After leaving active duty, he reportedly faced significant mental health challenges and even bouts of homelessness. In fact, Drecker had taken to living out of his truck and camping in recent times, a lifestyle that strained his family relationships and stability. His ex-wife Whitney had long harbored concerns about Travis's mental state and fitness as a parent. In September 2024, about 8 months before the tragedy, she petitioned the court to modify custody arrangements, citing Travis's deteriorating mental health and unstable living conditions, specifically noting his decision to essentially live in his vehicle. He's made great sacrifices in service to our country, and he loves his daughters deeply, but he needs to get better, Whitney wrote in her filing, explaining why she felt overnight visits were unsafe at that time. The court agreed, at least in part. Overnight visitations were revoked due to his instability, though Travis was still allowed unsupervised daytime visits with the girls. Whitney later said that while she was worried about his mental health, she did not initially believe he was dangerous or capable of hurting their children. Drecker's struggles included signs of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and possibly other untreated mental illnesses, according to family and friends. His ex-wife's attorney, Ariana Cozart, explained that Travis had been unable to get adequate help through veterans' resources, falling through the cracks of the system. The courts didn't fail these girls. It was our system, Cozart said, suggesting that a lack of mental health support contributed to Travis's downward spiral. By late May 2025, those close to him observed a man in obvious distress. A father who loved his children, yet battled inner demons and lived an increasingly transient, unsettled life. Signs of premeditation and motive. While the full motive behind the killings may never be fully understood, emerging evidence indicates that Travis Drecker's actions were premeditated rather than impulsive. Digital clues show that just days before the murders, Drecker was contemplating a drastic escape. On May 26th, he used his Google account to search phrases like, "How does a person move to Canada?" "How to relocate to Canada?" and "Jobs in Canada," even clicking on an official Canadian government employment site. This wasn't a casual whim. It appears he was laying groundwork to flee the country. Investigators believe Drecker was considering using the Pacific Crest Trail, PCT, a famous wilderness trail running north into Canada, as his route out. Notably, the location where the girls' bodies were found is roughly 11 miles from the PCT, in terrain that could lead toward the Canadian border. It's possible he chose that remote campground not only for its seclusion, but also for its proximity to an international escape path. Further supporting the idea of planning, cell phone records show that Drecker visited the campground at Rock Island at least a day before the girls ever went missing. He may have scoped out the area in advance, perhaps caching supplies or familiarizing himself with the terrain. Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison stated that Drecker could have scoped out this area before and has the ability and knowledge to survive for a long period of time out there. In other words, Travis may have carefully chosen both the scene of the crime and his potential hideout ahead of time. As for why he would commit such a heinous act, there is no simple answer. Some investigators and community members suspect a twisted form of revenge or desperation, perhaps an extreme reaction to the custody dispute or the fear of losing access to his children. The meticulous preparation, restraints, suffocation tools, escape plans suggests Drecker intended to carry out the murders and then vanish, rather than a spontaneous crime of passion. Online discussion forums have theorized that he planned the killings as a way to hurt his ex-wife in the most painful way possible, given his comment in court filings that he couldn't bear the girl sleeping in a homeless shelter with him. It's as if, in his distorted reasoning, he decided that if he couldn't provide a normal life or retain custody, no one else would have the children either. A horrifically misguided rationale seen in some familicide cases. On the other hand, those who knew Travis also point to his mental instability. It's conceivable that severe PTSD, paranoia, or other mental illness drove him to an irrational breaking point. His ex-wife's attorney emphasized that there were no red flags in the immediate lead-up to May 30th that signaled violent intent, implying that if Travis planned this, he kept his intentions hidden. The theory emerging from his family's side is that untreated mental health issues, combined with homelessness and hopelessness, culminated in this tragedy. In their view, Travis Drecker was a man who needed to get better and who ultimately snapped under the weight of his problems rather than a cold-hearted killer, though the end result is no less horrific. Likely the truth lies in some combination of these factors. A troubled man feeling cornered by life circumstances, who plotted an unspeakable crime and an escape. As Chelan County's under-sheriff put it, each new piece of information creates more questions for investigators. Was this motivated by malice, madness, or some of both? We may only learn the full story if and when Travis Drecker is captured and brought before a court to answer for his actions. The manhunt and law enforcement response. The discovery of the murdered children on June the 2nd galvanized a massive law enforcement response that has only escalated as days passed, with Drecker still at large. Local authorities in Chelan County initially led the search, scouring hundreds of square miles of rugged forest by ground, air, and water. They combed through hiking trails, riverbanks, caves, and cabins, any place a trained outdoorsman might hide. Deputies, police canine units, drones, and helicopters all joined the effort. By the end of that week, over 100 officers, deputies, and federal agents were involved in the manhunt, an unusually large mobilization that reflects how seriously authorities are taking this case. Hundreds of tips from the public poured in as well, more than 500 tips by June the 8th, though sifting credible leads from false sightings has been a challenge. Given the remote wilderness terrain, the Washington State National Guard was called up to assist. Governor and former Attorney General Bob Ferguson authorized National Guard helicopters to help search the deep woods and steep mountainsides where Drecker might be hiding. The FBI, Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Marshals Service, and multiple state and local agencies are now all coordinating on this operation. By June the 9th, federal authorities officially took over leadership of the search from the local sheriff's office as local resources became exhausted. The Chelan County Sheriff's Office continues to direct the criminal investigation and handle evidence, but the day-to-day manhunt is now a multi-agency federal pursuit. One reason for the heavy federal involvement is the possibility that Drecker could cross state or international lines. Canada is only a few hundred miles north of the Wenatchee area, and investigators fear he may attempt to slip into British Columbia via backcountry routes. Border authorities in both Canada and Mexico have been alerted, ensuring that ports of entry are watching for Drecker, and the Pacific Crest Trail is being monitored for anyone matching his description. Forest Service roads, trailheads, and even the US-Canada border itself are under closer watch, though the wilderness in between is vast and sparsely populated. Search efforts have not been limited to the outdoors. Police have executed numerous search warrants on electronic devices and locations linked to Drecker. This includes scouring his digital footprints, which led to the discovery of his Canada relocation searches, and checking any property he was known to frequent, from motel rooms to storage units. They've also released new photographs and video of Travis Drecker to the public. One surveillance video captured on a residential Ring camera a day or two before the murders shows Drecker driving and making purchases, offering a clear look at his appearance and mannerisms. By sharing these images nationwide, authorities hope someone might recognize him on the run, or that Drecker himself might realize there is truly nowhere safe for him to hide. Investigators are keenly aware that Drecker's military background makes him a particularly challenging fugitive. He is well versed in outdoor survival, having even attended mountain survival school during his service. According to his father, who flew in and cooperated with detectives, Travis had experienced living off-grid in the wild for up to 2.5 months at a time. He knows how to navigate difficult terrain, forage or hunt for food, and remain unseen, skills that could enable him to evade capture for an extended period. Clearly, this is not the outcome we wanted, Sheriff Morrison said after an early unsuccessful day of searching. But we are feeling optimistic. He noted that while Drecker's abilities complicate the search, every day on the run is another day for law enforcement to tighten the net. To mitigate the risk to civilians, officials took the unusual step of closing multiple popular campgrounds and trails in the region. Areas along the presumed route Drecker might take, including portions of the Pacific Crest Trail, have been temporarily shut down. Residents in Chelan and neighboring counties have been urged to stay vigilant. The undersheriff issued a warning to those living in remote cabins or farms. Please be aware, lock all of your doors, including sheds and outbuildings, and leave your window blinds open and outside lights on. The idea is to deny Drecker easy shelter and make it easier for law enforcement to spot any break-ins or movement at night. Nearby law enforcement agencies from across Washington state, and even in other states like Wisconsin where Drecker once lived, are on alert for any sign of him. Meanwhile, an extradition warrant with nationwide reach has been issued, and Travis Drecker has formally been charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of first-degree kidnapping in Washington state. Federally, he's charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, reflecting evidence that he intentionally fled after the crime. Authorities have made it clear, if caught, Drecker will face justice no matter where in the US, or even North America, he is found. A reward of up to $20,000 is being offered for information leading to his capture, a bounty that underscores the urgency of this manhunt. Community reactions and public outcry. The horrifying fate of Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia Drecker has elicited an outpouring of grief, anger, and questions from the public. In Wenatchee, the girls' hometown, the shock is profound. Counselors were dispatched to Lincoln Elementary School, where the sisters had been bright, smiling students only days before. The school district offered counseling to classmates and staff, grappling with the tragedy. Vigils and makeshift memorials sprung up with 3 small crosses, toys, and notes to the sisters whose lives were cruelly cut short. These girls were true light in this world, and it is a darker place without them, one family friend wrote in a heartbreaking post. That friend started an online fundraiser to support the girl's mother in her grief. Within days, donations neared $1 million, as sympathetic strangers across the country contributed. It was a powerful testament to the empathy and outrage people felt. Many noted that as parents themselves, the story hit too close to home, and they were compelled to help in any way possible. Law enforcement officials have also voiced their sorrow and determination publicly. The brutal murder of these young girls has shaken our entire state, Governor Ferguson stated, vowing full support to bring the perpetrator to justice. Detectives and deputies, some visibly emotional, have worked around the clock. A number of them are parents who admitted this case is especially gut-wrenching. The Chelan County Sheriff's Office has been transparent in press conferences, releasing updates even when there's little news, to assure the public that we will not rest until he's found. The media coverage has been intense, with national news outlets and true crime shows following every development. Commentators have drawn comparisons to other infamous manhunts and questioned how a father could commit such an atrocity. In the court of public opinion, there is also growing anger. Some of it is directed at Travis Drecker himself. Social media is filled with commenters calling him evil and hoping for his swift capture, with many struggling to comprehend how a parent could allegedly plan and carry out the suffocation of their own children. But there's also anger at the systemic failings that may have allowed this to happen. The fact that no Amber Alert was issued immediately prompted debate over whether the criteria for Amber Alerts are too strict in parental abduction scenarios. If an Amber Alert had gone out Friday night, could the girls have been saved, is a haunting question in the community. Police defended their decisions, explaining the case didn't meet the criteria initially. But in hindsight, many feel those rules should be revisited for cases involving unstable parents. Others point to the family court and mental health system. Whitney Drecker did everything right. She warned the court of Travis's instability, she restricted overnight visits, and she immediately called police when the girls didn't come home. Yet tragedy struck. The system failed him, said Whitney's attorney about Travis, referring to the lack of mental health intervention. But by extension, the system also failed to protect Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. This case has ignited calls for reforms, better support for veterans with PTSD, closer monitoring of parents with red flags, and perhaps more cautious approaches to visitation in contentious custody cases. Through grief-stricken tears, the girl's mother has stayed largely private in these early days, but her heartbreak is unimaginable. Representatives have conveyed her plea for Travis to be found and brought to justice, both for the sake of her daughter's memory and for public safety. The community stands firmly behind her. As one mourner sign at a vigil read, "Justice for the Drecker girls. We won't forget." The collective resolve in Wenatchee and beyond is clear. This story has touched a national nerve, and people are demanding answers and justice. Ongoing search and current status. As of now, Travis Drecker remains at large, a fugitive amid the forests and mountains of the Pacific Northwest, or possibly far beyond. The manhunt is in full force, entering its second week with no confirmed sightings yet. Each day brings new tips and leads. A footprint here, a possible campsite there, an unconfirmed report of a man fitting Drecker's description walking along a back road. Search teams methodically chase down each one. Federal authorities leading the operation have expressed cautious optimism that it's only a matter of time. Those facing serious prison time often flee not just the state, but the country, noted U.S. Marshal Keegan Stanley, underscoring why they're casting a wide net. Drecker has extensive survival training, but he's also under extreme pressure, hungry, cold, and on the move. Undersheriff Dan Osmond said investigators have gathered new details, new search areas, from warrants and evidence, and they continue to tighten the perimeter. Authorities are urging the public to stay vigilant and patient. In Washington and neighboring states, wanted posters of Travis Drecker, describing him as 5'8", 190 pounds with black hair and brown eyes, are plastered in post offices, rest stops, and outdoor gear shops. The reward of $20,000 tempts bounty hunters and tipsters, but officials emphasize that no one should attempt to confront him. Drecker is considered armed and dangerous, even though it's unconfirmed if he currently has weapons. He has nothing to lose and, as the crime sadly proved, is capable of extreme violence. If you think you've seen him, do not approach. Call 911 immediately, the police implore. Internationally, the case has not gone unnoticed either. Canadian law enforcement is cooperating, given the potential cross-border angle, and even Mexican authorities have been informed on the slim chance he heads south. U.S. Marshals have an unlawful flight warrant for Drecker, meaning any federal resources needed, from border checks to fugitive task forces, can be marshaled to apprehend him. For now, the story of Travis Drecker remains unfinished and unsettling. Each sunrise in the Cascades brings the possibility of a breakthrough, a search dog catching a scent, a drone spotting a figure under the canopy, or Drecker making a mistake that gives away his location. Law enforcement officials pledge that they will not let this case go cold. The legacy of Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia demands nothing less. In the end, the manhunt for Travis Drecker is more than just a chase for a suspect. It's a community's quest for closure and a nation's test of justice. From the haunting crime scene evidence to the massive search effort and the public's cries for answers, this case lays bare the cracks in systems and the depths of human tragedy. All eyes remain on the Pacific Northwest, waiting for the day when the suspect is finally captured and a full truth comes to light. Until then, the forests keep their secrets, and an entire country holds its breath, hoping that this heartbreaking saga will soon find its resolution.